invention. So, and I realized that things were on mute. So I apologize. So this is really about market invention and the overview of market invention. Again, my name's Adam Vasquez. I've been uh, doing market invention my entire career. I'm not the first person to do market invention. Maybe I'm the first person to really coin the phrase, but by no means do I have a monopoly on the methodology itself. There's been some incredible mentors in my life and people that I've worked with, as well as people looking up and looking at what others are doing in similar ways around market invention. And so my hope today is that we will explore market invention more. This, for some of you, this is not new, but this is important to set a baseline to market invention and how it works. And with that, I'm going to jump in here and just kind of explain, market invention, what we're doing. And we're going to be doing this every week. And this is meant to be very casual. Ask your questions, again, informal and casual. And I will do my thing to kind of educate and train of what I know is the known universe and how to apply market invention. But again, market invention isn't something that needs to be this big, hairy, audacious thing that is really hard for you to overcome. No, instead, this is really about doing something and creating something you love and getting other people to help share in that purpose with you, and building something as grand as a Netflix or as small as a weekend warrior project that you want other people to enjoy in your community. But it's really just about the future of what marketing is. And so let's just jump right into it. So, as I like to say, there's an intro to market invention, but why is market invention relevant? And I'd like to talk about three major points here. The first one is the market followers paradox. And what we see here, for some of you, this is not a new slide. You've seen this and are aware of this. But the market follower paradox just states as such. If you're not the leader in a market, everything you do and say promotes not only the market, but the leader with that market. So if you're spending on advertising and you're not the leader, you're actually, again, promoting the leader when you promote yourself. And why? Why is that? It's always been this case, but pre-internet, if you had the most money, you could kind of brute force and own a shelf space in a store and kind of become the leader. Today, after the internet, it really doesn't work like that anymore. Now, you can spend lots of money and make everyone aware to think that you are the leader. However, if your product or service kind of falls apart and it does not put you in a leadership position, everybody's going to find out pretty quickly eventually. So you really need to be your authentic self and deliver on what you say you do. So now let's say you do that. You're still falling to the market followers paradox if somebody else has already started that market and created that market. And why? Because when you go out and you do a Google advertisement, doesn't matter, a social media advertisement, a post on somebody else's, another media company's website, or even post a LinkedIn post, it really doesn't matter. If somebody is looking for what you do, they're going to search you, but they're going to find who else does it. And if there is a leader and you're not that leader, perceived leader, whether it's in reviews or what specific belief systems they're looking for, then you have just spent for your competitor. So meaning you are making them wealthier with your media buy. And I'll use Coke and Pepsi as the eternal poster children for the market follower paradox. What we see here in front of us is Google interest over time. And you see these spikes. These spikes are based on Super Bowl halftime show sponsorships. So when the top red line is Coke and the bottom blue line is Pepsi. Now, where Pepsi spikes on the bottom, the circled areas, especially the front and the back, the first one and the last one, are when Pepsi promotes and sponsors a Super Bowl halftime show. And what happens then is they get promotion and people come to Google and all this interest. However, they also spike up Coke because people go to Coca-Cola's website and everything else. So they increase the interest of the leader as well. And you can see the market followers paradox does not work the other way. There's no reciprocity in this process, or in this paradox, this doom loop, so to speak. Because when Coke sponsors a Super Bowl halftime show, which you see in the two middle spikes, Pepsi gets no reward. And so that's kind of depressing. And we'll get into that point. But I want everyone to consider that point, because even if you spend a couple $billion on marketing and advertising and you're Pepsi, you'll still not take the leadership position from Coca-Cola, because you're stuck in market follower paradox, and anything you do or say promotes the market and the leader itself in this broader idea of Coke or cola, so to speak. So point number one. Point number two is that the Great Resignation, and the Great Resignation, some of you have heard me talk about this. We talk about more of the law of vibration, or really it's a bit of an awakening. In this awakening process, I can equate it to law of vibration, consciousness moving up and being more consciously aware of just moving away from fear of missing out and other fear-based sales and marketing tactics. And people are waking up and being very educated consumers. So they're being educated, and they're being more aware that basically many marketers are not looking out for their best interest, including most companies are not. So the Great Resignation, is people opting out of, I would argue, capitalism 2.0 and really 2.0, 2.5. And let's get into that a little bit here. So the evolution of capitalism, it's changing, it's happening. We see it all the time with companies like Patagonia that are doing amazing things, making major profits in this, growing into more of and being more of a capitalist 3.0 karmic capitalism model, versus companies like General Electric, who are slowly dying, and they're based on this authoritarian shareholder capitalism model, which ironically General Electric has probably may not make it to karmic capitalism, but has certainly spanned the first 1.0 and 2.0. Now, many people are talking about conscious capitalism and stakeholder capitalism, and we debate on that internally. However, I would challenge that and say that that's not 3.0 karmic. It's really around 2.5. So people are still focused on the surface level and not understanding the larger connection of vibration and interconnectedness that we all have, which, if we focused on karmic capitalism, a lot of these other things would stop. So meaning our worries about inclusion and diversity, because we'd just be naturally inclusive and diverse, because we would understand that that's actually a feature and a benefit rather than something to be scared of. But so as people decide to move away from the fear-based paradox, or the fear-based realities that the previous generations and the media and everyone likes to keep us in, and move to more of a karmic-based capitalism model, our growth model really needs to change, and sales and marketing tactics need to change. So something to consider is, if the world is evolving, so does our approach to growth. And again, mapping to the map of consciousness by a gentleman, Dr. David Hawkins. For those who are not familiar with this, he was a clinical psychiatrist that was able to study behavior based on words, feelings, emotions, and strength in that from a kinesiology perspective. Hundreds of thousands of people have been researched in this process. And, you're talking about enlightenment being the top power and shame being force down in the bottom. And it is not a one-for-one comparison, meaning one person operating in a 600 piece level offsets a 20 level shame. We're talking thousands of times stronger, more powerful as you move up this map of consciousness based on those feelings and actions based on when compared to shame-based actions and things. And let's, this is directional, and these companies are not here to defend themselves, so I'm trying not to be too hard on them. But let's just throw them up here on the map, and And look at where Coca-Cola was. Coca-Cola inspires happiness and good times and everything else. However, their internal culture is not at that same level. So although their external uh, persona may sort of try to project happiness, internally they still struggle with shareholder capitalism 2.0 or maybe 2.5 with stakeholder capitalism. However, there are people opting out of their business every day, and it's just going to keep getting worse. And that's because although at an average they're higher than, say, the NFL or Nike, that's on average, because that's their internal is bringing them lower and their external is bringing them higher. Now, when you look at the NFL, it's all about pride of your team, pride of yourself. The same with Nike. There's courage in Nike. I think there's courage in the NFL. However, I use this example on intercepting cancer. Well, if you understand consciousness, and you would never say something like intercepting cancer, because that just is, you're just implying that everybody should go get cancer. So Mother Teresa used to say this: you can't be pro-peace and anti-war, because if you're anti-war, you're actually pro-war, because of the duality of that, the polarity of that nature. So instead of being anti-war, you should be pro-peace. So instead of being anti-cancer, if the NFL really understood things as far as a consciousness basis, they would be pro-health, so to speak. I know it doesn't have quite the teeth in it like intercept cancer, and that's a great copywriting job from that perspective. But again, that's an example of an old understanding of consciousness and the map of frequencies and law of vibration, which everything's a vibration. So if we think about that, and then if we look at getting into the election season, and you'll see every ad, just about, I have not seen one ad that's not positive, but I haven't seen one ad that's positive. They're all not positive, is Democrats and Republicans. And depending on where you stand, both are guilty equally. They like to blame. They like to throw shame out there. They like to make feel like you can't do anything. They can do it for you. That's the apathy. Give you grief. They'll give you fear. On a good day, it's fear. On a bad day, it's shame. And maybe they'll give you anger to do something about it. Maybe there's pride there. However, it's not high on the consciousness scale, and we can see that. And people are waking up to this. And you no longer operate in a scarcity, lack-based environment. And if your brand represents a low level of consciousness, people are going to opt out of your brand. And it's starting with your own employees, because they know what's really happening and they see through the fluff of the external persona that you're trying to project to the world, which unfortunately for most companies, it is a projection of, maybe aspirations, but they certainly don't live it on a day-to-day basis. So sorry, don't need to bash these companies. I think there's a lot of really great people in every one of these companies that are trying to do their best. There is unfortunately a lot of ignorance in these companies too. And egos and arrogance as well, but that's just something we all have to work on ourselves. So then let's get down to what is a market. All right, so if growth is needing to change, let's just break it down. Let's get down to the basics. Like, what is a market? If we're marketers, like, what is a market? Like, if we're marketing a market or a company in a market, let's talk about that. So a market is, simply put, you can read it here, is really a group of individuals coming together to solve a shared pain based on a shared belief. It's really that simple. It's a community. And most companies in this previous version treated their market as, with such terms as, well, how much share wallet are you going to get? Well, share wallet is basically implying that you're just trying to get as much money out of your customer as possible. So that's type of terminology that needs to just disappear in marketing language and speak. And I can always tell an antiquated marketer when they talk about share wallet. And by the way, I've talked about share wallet, so I'm not trying to throw shame on anybody, but just trying to make a point of, if you're using this kind of terminology, you need to think about your beliefs and how you're treating your customers maybe differently. And I think the other part about what a market is, the other misconception is it's just customers in a market, or this external people are in a market. It's everybody. It's anybody who transacts with you, buys with you, shares thoughts with you, partners with you. It's the whole ecosystem. So the market is the ecosystem. It's not some separate category of some people that aren't in your market. No, everybody is teaming up together, just like any ecosystem. So a market really is an ecosystem, but it's a community. It's a community that should be around a shared purpose and shared belief and supporting each other. So, key difference when you look at this, competitors are no longer competitors if you're really trying to be conscious and looking at a market this way. Competitors are there to support and grow the market with you, because everybody wins when we do this together. Now, there always are competitors that think of competition as squash the competition, whatever it takes. But those individuals are antiquated, and they're actually they're retiring and leaving the workforce, and that there really is no place for that in the future economy that we're trying to build here. So if you're a market inventor, certainly you add another layer if you're a karmic capitalist. But even if you don't believe in karmic capitalism, just being a market inventor, everybody winning is at your best interest, because you win and then you represent the biggest winner in that space. So what does a mature market look like? And it's any kind of mature market has obviously the market leader, and that market leader, there's media associated with it, customers, government, influencers, partners, associations, investors, obviously other companies. And I think the key difference is, a lot of people say, oh, my industry, my automotive industry, or my consumer electronics industry. What they're getting confused is an industry classification versus a market. And there's a really, really big difference. And what I mean by that is, an industry is like a vertical classification of a category. A market is a belief system. So a market can have multiple industries within it. Meaning, if you're big on innovation and that's like your primary belief system, well, the innovation idea is the market, and the industries that you buy from are the industries that probably represent that market, almost like a persona, but deeper than that, a community-based approach. Meaning, you might buy Tesla, you might buy Apple, because you're in that innovator sort of marketplace. You will not buy non-low tech things or sort of antiquated type things, right? Because of the innovation idea. But my only point is, an industry can have multiple markets and a market can have multiple industries, but they are not the same. And in an industry, what I mean can have multiple markets is, within an industry, you can have, say, an innovation in the automotive market, innovation companies, which would be Tesla. You can have sort of Americana type based market groups. And those would be companies like Ford or Chevy may be there. Jeep might even be that. And that might be an adventure market that's in industry. But then within that adventure market, you have the automotive industry, you have representation of each one of these industries, but they are not the same, if I'm making myself, clear here. So let's just call it that. Industry is a classification around a product category. A market is a belief system. Markets can have multiple industries, and industries can have multiple markets, but you don't sell to industries. You sell to markets and belief systems, because even industries, if you're say you're a manufacturer, an automotive parts manufacturer, if you're just selling generic, oh, we're just experts in automotive, that's fine, but it's missing the belief system to that. So within even the buyers within the automotive industry subscribe to different belief systems. So again, thinking about that, that's the market. That's how you want to invent, or really when we talk about invention, you're bringing together these belief systems as a rallying call. And why do most people fall in the market followers paradox? Because they try to grow in the leader's market. So most people who are listening to this or tuning in, you are in this place. You are in the market follower paradox, where most companies are trying to grow, and everything they advertise or promote is promoting the market. Well, and the market reflects the leader's belief system always. So if you're trying to jump in and sell against a GoPro, well, GoPro has people that buy GoPros have a belief system, and they organized it around this camera. Now, it's a camera. Call it the industry, the camera industry. But somebody who buys a GoPro versus a generic, cheap manufactured one from China, and a GoPro might be manufactured in China. I don't have that, but anyways, a cheaper knockoff of GoPro. You're not buying GoPro's value system. You're buying something else. So people that buy GoPro are probably believe in more rugged, the adventure lifestyle, the trust of it, and even resonate with the founders, right? They see themselves through the founders' eyes, and they connect themselves, much like many people connect themselves with the idea they want to be with Steve Jobs, follow Steve Jobs, or that celebrity factor with Elon Musk and Tesla. And the reason is that all markets reflect the leader's belief system, because before the leader, or maybe it wasn't the leader, before some company organized an idea around a pain or hope, is a nice way of saying pain, there wasn't anybody organizing around it. So when they did that, they had to hire the people at first. Then they had to train those people. Then they represented the culture with those people. Their processes were the first processes of this market. Their products were, their language, everything they do. So when you jump in and you go in and you're like, oh, I'm going to go compete, you're Pepsi, I'm going to go compete with Coke. And then you say silly things like, we can only hire from within our industry. They know our industry. They know our market. What you end up doing is getting all the same people and all the same thinking. And so whatever you do, all you're doing is projecting and promoting the leader's belief system and the market that the leader's belief system represents. Now, I hope that makes sense for everyone. So why don't we try something different? Why don't we be the leader ourselves and lead by inventing new markets with new beliefs? And we're not saying that, we necessarily need a better Coca-Cola or something like that, but maybe we do. But usually there is an organization, or belief systems evolve when consciousness evolves and our perspective on things evolves. So then we need to keep basically create our own path and organize the next group. And the irony of all of this is, if you're in a mature market and there's a clear established leader, chances are that leader is creating the majority of the pain for that industry or that market per se. So a lot of times it's as simply, it sounds crazy, just be a better mousetrap, but it's solving the pain. A lot of times it's solving the pain that the legacy leader created when they created this market. Now, well, I'm also making a point of, when you're inventing new markets with new beliefs, there are certain beliefs that you have to keep up with, meaning those are the legacy market norms. Quality in automotive is one of those things. You cannot be a successful automotive industry leader, let alone a market leader for, say, the adventure market in automotive, without having quality. right? That is just table stakes. So the legacy market's norms in many ways become the measuring stick of the future market and how much better it is. And some of those things you keep. Other things you if they don't align to the belief system, you discard and you throw them away, or you improve them. However, regardless, you still need new beliefs and a rallying call and getting people excited about this new opportunity. And we'll, in future episodes, we'll get into how to uncover the opportunities. And in fact, we'll do that next week. But for now, know that it is actually easier to invent new markets than competing in legacy ones. It just is. It seems counterintuitive, but I will say this: there are less. If you believe in competition, I don't believe in competition anymore. I think of it as a scarcity mindset, like you're afraid somebody's going to take something from you, and I just don't believe our universe is scarce like that. That's my belief. But say you still believe in competition and you are afraid that people are going to, compete with you, and it's a very tough market and there's so many people and use blue ocean, there's a sea of red. That's all in your mind. And what I'm really trying to say here is it is harder to compete in that sea of red, like in blue ocean's correct on that, because there's just more people. And there's just less people doing this. It's just really being codified now, meaning it kind of existed with a select few people understood this, but now it's being codified so more people have access to this information, which is partially why I'm doing this, to give more people access to this type of information. But the other thing to remember is when people say, "Oh, it's hard to get to the top level," say you're applying for a job, that job, if you stay in the sort of low level entry level job position, there are way more people applying for those jobs, way more. Now, the further you go up, you actually have less competition. And inventing a market, you have zero competition, other than the legacy belief systems and the legacy market leader. But again, understanding the market follower paradox, when you create your new market and it is the future of the industry, then a lot of people are copycats and they're going to take your best practice and rinse and repeat. And then what's going to happen is they're going to be trapped in the market follower paradox with you being the market leader, and it will flip. The whole thing will flip for you versus against you. Moving on. So what is the life cycle on this? Now, you can use multiple names for these areas, open for debating that, but there are 4 critical sort of evolutions of your market. And what you do in these stages differs, right? What we tried to do was bring it down to the point where there's no overlapping anymore. And we got to 4 primary phases, right? Again, there's lots of marketing methodologies, 4 steps, 5 steps, whatever else. You can call this a methodology. I don't care what you call it, but let's all just agree that these are maturity scale of a life cycle of a market, and these are maturity stages of that market. The first is market opportunity, and that's as simple as it is. What's the opportunity? What market are we creating? What is the belief system that's out there that nobody is solving for? What pain is being created by the industry leader? We'll jump into that in future series. Actually, the next series, we'll jump into that next week. And then once you have an opportunity, it's like, okay, well, how are we going to invent this thing? What is it that we're inventing? And that really comes down to the invention strategy. But really, think of this for those who are karmic capitalists on the call. Think of number 2 as number 1 is a lot of the research in different areas, and we'll dig into how you do that. But number 2 is really about, I would say, visualizing and codifying what it looks like, how we're going to educate, what are the words we're going to use, what's obviously the business plan, but all of that kind of what's our point of view, like really what is the point of view on this, and and really looking into that, so that when you make the market, which is make the market is when you're in make the market. So your invention strategy until you're in the market, basically. And once you're kind of and in the market, it's probably the wrong term. You're creating the market, and that's make the market. And that's really about educating and recruiting. Now, this is not about selling. This is not about the hard sale, the close, any of that. This is making people aware of the pains and the issues and organizing fragmentation of that market. These one of the things you have to remember about this is it's like, and I'll throw a little law of attraction in there. Whatever you're looking for, it is looking for you. And if you have identified a market opportunity in a group of people that you share common purpose, beliefs, and around a specific pain, then they probably exist. Now, don't know how big it is. That's some of the work that you have to do in number 1 and number 2 parts of the life cycle. But let's just say it's big enough. Then making the market is about awareness and education, recruiting, and letting people know what you're doing and bringing them together. And then letting these individuals be advocates for you, right? So, and then finally, you flip to lead the market only when, and you're always going to be educating, okay? Because in the innovation adoption curve, there's always laggers, there's a late majority, and you're kind of navigating through that. And I'll get into that when we get into Make the Market and future series. But the point is you're really trying to educate, and you're always going to be educating and helping people. The difference is when your market share and everybody starts recognizing you that for what you are, and you've gotten to critical mass. And now, when you're merging into lead the market is when the legacy industry leader, whether in industry, say if you're creating a market from scratch and there is no competition, nobody's done this before. When you're entering it, when other competitors start popping up saying they do what you do, but a big competitor that is looking at this as a tertiary expansion to their core business. Like, oh, we need to extend a product line. We need to go over here. We need to do this. We need to do that. It's when you're a tech company and Google starts knocking on your door or saying they do something that is similar. That's okay. The key difference is when that happens, if you've done your job right and make the market, creating breadcrumbs and content and information that's out there that people can find it, and you have a right opportunity that people are excited about, and you're delivering on that. When you get to lead the market, you're shifting from primarily educating to defending is the wrong term, but that gets you a sense. It's just making sure everybody remembers that you're the best and you're supporting, and there is some reminders there. I mean, you look at Boston Beer Company, best known for Sam Adams. A lot of people don't realize that they were really the first craft beer in the United States that scaled out, and they really invented the craft beer market. Now, their anchor steam was out on the West Coast. They're doing some wonderful things, and there's tons of other craft beers that I know for a fact. There are tons of other craft beers at the time, but it was Sam Adams that really made it a trend. And so they really get credit for inventing the craft beer market, because before that, it was all sort of small little project-based stuff and like regional. Now it's became the thing. And so, but people, they're, I think, at a couple $2 billion in revenue, but people don't think of them as a craft beer anymore. So they're in a point where they're in the lead the market, and they have to remind people about their craft beer legacy, and that's who they are. They're just a big craft beer, to the point that they're bigger than some of these mainstream beers that we think of, right? So again, lead the market is the final stage, but you can't just stay on your laurels. Market invention is a continuous process. So you do need to be thinking about the next market opportunity for yourself as your business as this expands. If it's still part of the same core belief system, then it becomes easy. But if you're, say, a different kind of company that's building multiple belief systems in multiple markets, if you're, say, a large company with many products across multiple industries, then you need to keep continuously doing this and opening up new markets. The other part is you could get to a decision here when you realized you got a market opportunity here and you end up buying somebody. So, if you're doing M&A without market invention, or at least the opportunity phase, you're kind of doing it the old way. This is, in many ways, this is the old traditional way, but this is the way that works. And a lot of people are just chasing it or chasing trends, but they're really not understanding the difference. And I will say this, Benjamin Graham always talked about this as the value investor, finding the intrinsic value. And Warren Buffett's built a whole company, Berkshire Hathaway, off of this. But it's not just the numbers. What they are missing is, and it's not about protecting yourself through a trench, like barriers of entry, traditional ways, like, oh, the cost of entry is too high, so we've got some protective measures. The only protective measure for any business is the belief system. It's the only protective measure. That's, if you look at any company, technology can be repeated. It can be done better. It's done better all the time. Any product, there are no barriers of entry. The only, really, over time, all barriers entry eventually disappear. The only barrier entry that never disappears is the belief system. So if I'm not giving you investing advice. I do not do that. However, if I were to invest, which I do, I look for the intrinsic value, but intrinsic value with a core belief system, which companies like Apple have belief systems. Coca-Cola has a belief system. Keep going on and on and on, and there's belief systems. Even Taco Bell has a belief system, but other companies don't. Samsung does not have a belief system. It does, but it's a generic one, and it's a Me Too sort of belief system. If that's something you like, they're large in revenue and all sorts of things. But I just mean that when technology is the same, all you have to fall back on is belief system. So with that, keep moving. So becoming a thought leader through market invention, I think, talking about these 4 phases, I move myself so I'm not in front of things. I'll just pull this to the front here. The market opportunity, these are just some deliverables or things you should be considering. That's really about the research and the primary research where you want to dig into. And we'll dig into this market opportunity next week. But you really want to focus on what you do well, strengths, customers' pain, which a lot of times is what the market leader is doing to the customer, the competition, what influencers and what they are saying and what they're looking at, and then the mega trends. Mega trends are really about timing. And then it's just mapping and sizing of the opportunities that you generate. And we'll show how to do that. There's a whole mapping exercise that I'll walk you through. But regardless, it gives you a real good heat map on where there's opportunities and where there are not opportunities. And the invention strategy is, really starts with I call it the Declaration of Independence. And the reason why I call it the Declaration of Independence, because I think that's the best market point of view ever created to date. And if you read the Declaration, the United States Declaration of Independence, it really sets up the pain and the problem up front. And then it inspires you of what actions we're going to do about it and what this community is coming together for. And that's what your point of view is for. That is what it is. It's a rallying point, not for your company, but for all companies that share this belief system and individuals, whether they're employees, customers, investors, whatever, that are going to be coming and building this market with you. And then to make the market plan is simple planning. How are we going to do this? How are we going to educate? What is the old legacy term, go to market? A product service you have to develop. And then market concepting. And really, market concepting is important because everybody needs to see this and visualize it so that we can manifest it. And then moving into make the market, this is really when you're in the market and educating the market. And these are just channels of influence and education. There's really neither one of them is a priority over the other. Obviously, the cheapest is digital, doing things like what we're doing today, getting on live streams, just creating content. That's stuff that just takes time. but that's important. And then once you make the market and you're going to lead the market, you're really shifting to defending the market. So your messaging's changing, your pose, how you're doing it, and you need to be authentic. And you now represent that belief system. You are the poster child for the belief system of that market. So you better live it, because your customers or your employees, everybody's going to see it now when you don't live that truest path. So there is no getting off of it unless you want to, right? Obviously, but if you falter, it can really hurt you, and it's really hard to get that trust back. So invention life cycle, how long does this take? Okay. So it's a very common question. I would say that it can take up to 7 to 10 years. Okay. And you're like, wow, Adam, I don't have that much time. That seems long. It really isn't when you're building a sustainable model that is going to last for 100 years afterwards. So, but it all depends on where your current business is and how much awareness you have already. Meaning, somebody like Elon Musk can drive a share price up on any one of his companies or competitors, or drive it down just based on one tweet, right? So for him, or like an Apple company or a Google, they already have their audience. They already have an large established market. So when they roll out new ideas, they get adopted and quickly get to scale. Okay. So their time is much faster. You could, uh, taking out the actual development time of a product or service and the research and all that stuff that comes in, which by the way, can take years, depending on what it is. It could also take a couple months. You can see that impact right away. Also, if you're an unknown company, you can see the impact right away as soon as you get past the first two stages, because your messaging changes and now you're no longer selling in someone else's market. Your sales team, and if you're the entrepreneur, the solopreneur, you, how you talk about it changes. Now you're no longer selling people, you're inspiring people to come join your cause. And there's a big difference on that. We're talking force model, was like, go out and call 10 million people and see if you get 10. The power model is build it, network it, show the people what, the community, what you're trying to do, recruit it, overcome it. But you're going to find people are going to be doing the work for you, and you're in flow. So, you can be in force, which is not in flow, or you can be from power, which is flow, and it's a higher vibration, which we talked about in map consciousness. So that was you'll still see immediate impact on this. Your conversion will go up drastically. You'll not chase down customers who are not aligned with your market platform or your belief system. You'll just see it pretty clearly, so you'll know when not to waste energy. Everything becomes more efficient, including all of your marketing spend. So, and the best thing about all of this is when you spend, you're not making the market leader money, because all you're doing is you're actually disrupting their revenue and siphoning it off from multiple sources, or something completely new. But my only point is, this is the way to do it, because just being another mousetrap, sea of mousetraps, is just not a winning formula, and you're going to go gray, go old, get old faster, and die unhappy. And that's the old way of model that we've been trained, and this is more of the truer model for how you should be marketing. So unlocking market invention. Again, I promised to make this an hour, so we're going to keep pushing through this. Any comments, please feel free to just drop in here. Unlocking market invention. So the point of view, called a Declaration of Independence, you need that first and foremost. And these are the things that, if you do nothing else, these are the things that you need to solve for. Belief system. So what does that point of view represent? What is your belief system? It matters. It is not about trying to change the world, but it is about organizing a group of people that share this belief system, that want to do this with you. And that's important. Language, the words you use. It's very important to change, to use things, the words that are yours. Salesforce.com and Mark Benioff from Salesforce.com came out with the idea of obviously cloud-based CRM. That was the market they were inventing, but the legacy market, which they also coined the name of, was on-premise. And it's interesting because Siebel Systems, they were selling, they were 99% of the market for customer relationship management at the time. And when they would start going into selling, and they were on premise, meaning on premise, for those who don't know, is you would have to install the software locally, and there would be no cloud, no internet to be able to just get software on demand. Things that obviously the newer generation takes for granted, but we actually used to install every application individually to each machine. And if there was an upgrade, we'd have to reinstall it every time. It'd be a once a year type of thing, and it would be a lot of work and very expensive. Mark Benioff solved that, but he also knew that he needed to give a language to the market to know the difference. And that's when he coined on-premise, or maybe not Mark, but people on his team, so that when they went into when their Siebel Systems sales team would go in and sell their Siebel system, one of the questions that customers started asking was, is this on-premise? I don't want on-premise, because on-premise represented the old belief system. So then suddenly the Siebel team were like, we just got labeled as on-premise. Well, I don't want to be on-premise, but on-premise is what we are. So they want software as a service model. And there happened to be one company called Salesforce.com, which now has the tallest building in San Francisco. So it just gives you an example of just how you do some market bridging, which we'll get into that in later discussions. But language is important. And then, of course, product and service. Don't need to talk about this too much, other than you need to deliver on that belief system and point of view. And results, you need to deliver. There's no room for fakers anymore. You just get exposed too quickly, and everybody's going to know pretty quickly. Okay. Be your authentic self. Do something that you can be great at. Don't try to do something else. Don't try to be in somebody else's market, because it's not yours. It's your own path. And you need a story. We're humans. We love stories. Great story goes a long way. If you put two market inventors neck to neck and they're both inventing the same market at the same time, story is probably going to win over the other one. And then, of course, activation, which is important. And that's part of the story, but activating an ad will not invent a market. It can help. It's part of it. And I say ad and advertisement. A Super Bowl advertisement will not invent a market. It may rally the market. It may get people to wake up a little bit, but really activation is where it comes through. And that's education and working with people in the community and getting people to where your vision is. And really, ultimately, you move from force to power. And force is the old way of thinking, which most corporations are in today, which is like my purpose, my beliefs. This is my product, how great it is. And even the stakeholder capitalism, which is really 2.5, not even a full 3.0, is still trying like, oh, it's shared purpose and beliefs, but it is at a superficial level, and a lot of greenwashing out there. And greenwashing, for those who don't know what greenwashing is saying that you're green, but you don't. You're not really green. You're just saying it that you're green, even though you don't believe in environmental, because it sells, right? And there's going to be a lot of that coming out, and those individuals will shake out. They will shake out. So really what happens is we see a flip here. The new market becomes the new trend in the industry. A lot of the other industry leaders or former market leaders, depending on where it is, are going to jump in and say, hey, I do this. It's the biggest trend. I just talked to, some consultants from one of the big four, and they told me that this is one of the emerging trends and I need to be in there. And that's great. That's exactly what you want. And because now you're using the system for you versus not against you, and you're using the market follower paradox for you. and everything changes at that point. Now, again, this information is out there, so some people can do this against you too. So if you're sitting there and you're a leader and you're like, this stuff, I'm always going to be the leader, none of this stuff's true. Well, I can just say that now that this information's out there, um, no industry or leadership, I just say leadership position is safe. And that is not a threat and it's not been negative. It's just the fact that now people understand how to unlock the door and open up new markets. So we're going to see a lot more interesting stuff and a lot more shared equity and inclusion, where there's not just one leader and everybody else is followed. There's multiple leaders, and how we look at markets will forever change. Few more minutes left. I just want to kind of cover just HubSpot, a couple examples. HubSpot invented the inbound marketing market. You see Google Trends over time, how it's actually pulling them up over time. The blip here on the far right, dropping down. I think that was a algorithm challenge with Google. However, I don't have a great explanation for that for you, but you can see it actually pulls it up over time. So when people are searching for inbound marketing, really they're led to HubSpot. And Marketo and Pardot all advertise on inbound marketing now. And HubSpot really built an ecosystem of marketing agencies, customers, their software rewarded them to really built that up, to build that ecosystem, and educated a while. And it took some time. But HubSpot is clearly the leader in inbound marketing, and everybody who says they do inbound marketing supports HubSpot's belief system. UiPath, if you're not familiar with robotics process automation, the bots are here. They're doing all the automated stuff. AI is part of this. But UiPath really came out there and was the first one to really kind of educate people on a massive scale on RPA. And you can even see it when there's spikes in demand for actual finding the search term robotic process automations. You actually see the exact spikes correlated in people searching for UiPath directly. So they have become synonymous with this market that they've invented. And TE Connectivity is a great example as well. So TE Connectivity invented the connectivity market. I have some personal experience with this. But you can see that their competitor Molex, right around the time when they stopped being just Tyco Electronics and a component supplier to being a connectivity leader, now Molex and other competitors all advertise on connectivity. And the idea of, if not familiar to connectivity, they do electronic connectivity, power, data, sensors, all the nervous systems, anything in any of the electronics that anything that has electronics that we either drive, we use on a day-to-day basis, basically. And they're in everything. It actually drove up their share price too. So they gained a drastic increase, around $20 billion in market cap too. So it definitely helps you in so many ways from a valuation perspective, but also from just being rewarded for being the leader. Even Peeps, for those who don't know Peeps, they're the sugar Peeps, the marshmallow candies from around Easter. They invented the Easter candy market. And you see them here with Peeps versus Cadbury. Now, Peeps is just one of many companies the Just Born company or family owns, where Cadbury is a company that owns lots of Easter candies and not just the Cadbury eggs, right? So what you see here, every basically Easter, around Easter, every time there's a spike in traffic, and Peeps, even though they spend virtually nothing on marketing and advertising, they've been able to live through, basically carry that invention through forever until Easter candy or Peeps are no longer synonymous with it, which I don't see that happening anytime soon. And then we could talk about Solera, and we'll use Solera as some examples coming up here in future series. But the Solera invented the claims experience market, and they went from a third place in a 3-horse race. The top one was CCC Information Services, and then basically at the end, and I'll dig into this later, they were able to become the leader in their industry through inventing the claims experience market. And it ended up equating to Vista Equity Partners buying them for $6.5 billion. So market inventors, we don't think small. We do execute at a small micro level because that's kind of what we have to do. We cannot just sit here at a high level, talk about this stuff. We got to do it. But it is a game changer. This is where you get high valuations. This is where you get customers that will buy from no one else in your industry category. You need less advertising than competitors. You need less investments. You need less people. It's just your profit margins are larger. Patagonia's profit margins are twice as much as North Face or any of their peers, even though their peers have twice the number of people and the same revenue. So it motivates your team as well. And so I guess the point here is you really, as you think about these things, market invention is, simply put, a new model for growth in a new form of capitalism. It's not meant to be, the silver bullet to solve world hunger. It's meant to be a process, a methodology, a philosophy of how to organize communities, because as marketers, we are not here to promote just our companies any longer. We're here to organize people, to bring them together to solve a real pain or issue in the industry that we are. So that market is organizing and bringing these belief systems together. And lastly, I just wanted to share a few books that are worth reading before we depart. Toothfish, obviously, if you haven't read it, please do. It's available on Amazon. All of these are available on Amazon, or Audible. Behind the Cloud, which is really interesting. I recommend you read Toothfish first, and then Behind the Cloud, and then Shoe Dog, which is from Phil Knight. Excellent book about Nike. Behind the Cloud's about Salesforce, and then Quench Your Own Thirst is from Jim Koch, and this is about Boston Beer Company, specifically Sam Adams. And you'll see a lot of the connecting themes, and each one of these individuals is market inventors. And every one of them has built incredible companies that have disrupted their industries and has created a sustainable market where nobody else will leave, because they represent their belief systems. And it's pretty remarkable. So with that, just want to say thank you for joining us. This concludes our first series in Market Invention. I apologize for the sound issues. That's my user error in the front. I did not say anything more than I didn't repeat once I realized things were on mute. But again, thanks again, everyone, for joining us. And we'll continue to do this every week. And next week, we're going to jump into how to discover your market opportunity. And we'll dig in deep. So bring in questions. We're going to keep doing this. It's going to be informal. It'll seem a bit ad hoc, but my only agenda is to teach people how to do this as practitioners, so that we're all more effective in achieving our dreams. And honestly, that is one of my big purposes on this life, is I want to see everybody reach their potential. And this is a process and methodology I learned for some great successful people in different pieces throughout my career. And we're trying to bring a community together that is bringing this to life, and that also is successful through this and making it better. Again, I'm a student of this like the rest of you, and I'm excited to share my thoughts and my experiences and learn from yours in the coming weeks. And we're going to keep doing this, and it's exciting. So thanks again, everyone. Have a glorious day, and I'll talk to you soon.